Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today in our third session for our Fire Relief Fundraiser, third and final, I believe. So we are very excited to host three companies today who have very charitably donated to various relief causes for forest fire victims. As always, this presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to know more about those, you can find them on the company's websites. And there will be a Q&A section for each company, so feel free to input questions throughout the presentation. And next up, we've got Garett Macdonald.
Hi.
So Garett Macdonald, CEO of Maritime Resources, which is a name that I've seen and followed. Kai's a friend of mine, so I've seen a bunch of Kai's videos and watched them recently in preparation for this session. And we've actually worked with a number of Newfoundland stories, so I know the area fairly well. So very interested in hearing what you've got going on. You actually just made an acquisition from one of the companies we work with, which is Signal Gold. So interested to hear your perspective on that as well. So I'll stop talking and let you give us a bit of an overview of Maritime.
Okay, sounds good. Well, great. Thanks for hosting this. As your last speaker said, it's a great cause. We're happy to be here and happy to give an update on Maritime. We've been pretty busy for the last few months, so it's a perfect time to give an update on all the things that have been going on here. So we'll just jump into it. Forward-looking statements, of course, please read those at your leisure. And we'll start with this. So this is a good overview of Maritime right now. So we've been working on this project in Newfoundland. All of our assets are in Newfoundland, except for one that's in the Abitibi in Quebec. But our main focus is turn the former Hammerdown Gold Project. It was a former mine owned by Richmont back in the early 2000s. We're looking to restart that mine. Okay, this was a very high-grade mine. It operated, closed in 2004, actually, at a 8.5 gram cutoff grade. We've been working on this project for a few years now, working it through the different engineering stages, permitting, and getting it ready to put back into production. I'll take even a little step back from Hammerdown, with Newfoundland and Labrador as the jurisdiction that we operate in. Recently ranked number 4 by the Fraser Institute for Investment Attractiveness. It's been a great jurisdiction to work in. I've worked in many projects around the world, and this is by far the best one that I've come across, and I love working here. The province has a mandate, I guess, or a goal of having 5 new mines constructed in the province by the year 2030. So that gives you an idea of where their focus is and what they value for investment in the province. So I think that's great. Not too often you hear that from provinces or other jurisdictions. I mentioned Hammerdown is our key asset. We also have some other assets that I think are equally important. We own the only 2 gold plants in the province currently. Marathon Gold is building the 3rd one. We own 2. So we own the former Nugget Pond gold circuit there. This is the one that was originally built by Richmont that processed ore from the high-grade Nugget Pond mine and also from Hammerdown. And most recently, as Deborah mentioned, we just acquired from Signal Gold the Pointe Rousse project. This happened about a month ago in August. It includes a 1,300 ton a day mill called Pine Cove, which is fully permitted with large capacity tailing storage. I'll explain that a little bit more as we go through this. There's opportunities for toll milling in the area. There's a hub and spoke, kind of model that we might look at employing here. We did sign an MOU with Newfoundland Gold just recently as well to look at potentially toll milling some of their material from the Queensway project at this Pine Cove mill site, which is, again, fully permitted. Lots of exploration potential in the area. Newfoundland has seen a lot of exploration over the past few years, but historically not so much. And we see a lot of potential around the former Hammerdown mine. We have some other deposits that we're exploring at the moment, which are very exciting. We've got an asset in the Abitibi that we picked up through one of the deals we've done on the Nugget Pond circuit, 200,000 ounce gold deposit sitting there. We call this a strategic asset. It is non-core for us at the moment. We're looking for a partner or a buyer for this one. And we'll put all of our focus in Newfoundland to create a new East Coast gold company backed by the Hammerdown project. We did a feasibility study on this project last year. We're going to be updating that study with this new process plant that we picked up. We have a couple of other deposits that we're looking to add into the mix to create a longer mine life. But it's a very good little project. It's a good starter mine, and we see some other potential to grow that. We've got a very strong shareholder base and supporters, backed by Dundee as our largest shareholder, Tempo Capital. Through the deal we just recently did with Kevin and the Signal guys, they became shareholders in Maritime. Newfoundland Gold came in as one of our lenders as well. We have Sprott and Gold Resource Corporation. So great mix of supporters. They've been fantastic to work with. We're lucky to have them. A little bit here on the Baie Verte district. This is a very old mining district. We don't get a lot of attention in Canada on this one, but there's been a lot of mining here way back to the early 1900s and even earlier. What's shown on this area here, the Trans-Canada Highway to the south, infrastructure here is fantastic. We've got paved highways, hydroelectric power. We've got ports. There's a number of different mines. There's 2 gold processing plants. There's a copper concentrator. And what I've outlined here in blue are Maritime's properties. This is the Hammerdown project down to the south. And about an hour away by driving is the Pointe Rousse project. So this is where the Pine Cove mill and port infrastructure is located. To the east, just over on the coast here, is the Nugget Pond Gold Circuit. That's the one that we picked up a couple of years ago from a company called Rambler. 2 big transactions have happened recently. In fact, this area has had a lot going on this year. Both mines that were operating shut down. So the Argyle mine up here that Signal was operating ran through its reserves, so it was shut down. The Rambler project, which is the main mine to the south here, also shut down. So a big impact on the local economy. 2 transactions have happened since then. One is the acquisition that we made of the Pointe Rousse project up here. And just recently, Teco Minerals announced the pending acquisition of Rambler and all of their assets through this area. So lots going on in this area, but it is a great place to work. It's quite an easy place to build a mine with all the infrastructure. Skilled labor is here. All of the suppliers, vendors, things that you need to get a mine up and running are all based right here. Another kind of view looking, I guess, towards the south, just highlighting the infrastructure and the different projects that are in this area. So I wanted this one here because, we just announced an MOU with Newfoundland Gold on their Queensway project. That's about 265 kilometers over here. Road network all the way up to the Pine Cove mill. So it made a lot of sense to look at a potential toll milling arrangement here. If they're into bulk sampling or any material that they want to test, it makes sense to come to a fully permitted mill with tailings capacity right here. So our other processing asset is kind of a joint situation with Teco. We own the gold circuit. They have the rest of the site and the copper concentrator located just about 40 kilometers away from this mill here. An hour to the south is our main Hammerdown project near the town of Kings Point. So we're in a neat area. We have a lot of synergies and different things we could look at doing with different companies. We're a pretty innovative group and looking for savings where things make sense and value that we can add to the story. We'll go through this here in a little bit of a kind of a fashion about Hammerdown starting first, followed by some exploration that we think can really add to the value here. But our current market cap is, we believe, certainly undervalued. Certainly, most companies would come up with the same conclusion in this market. But given the fact that we have all this infrastructure, really gives us an advantage to get our main project into production. So here's another view of the Pine Cove complex that we just acquired. So this is the Pine Cove mill, looking, I guess, towards the west. Mill site is just located here. There's road access to it. There's hydroelectric power. We've got an in-pit tailing storage facility. So this is the former Pine Cove mine that they mined out, open pit. There's about close to 4 million cubic meters of capacity in here, which translates to roughly about 13 years, 12 to 13 years of storage space for tailings. So that's a big advantage. It's fully permitted. We have a contractor on site who is actually reducing the amount of waste rock around the port here and over behind the mill. This is a big advantage for us, of reducing the environmental liability on the site by mining the waste rock, crushing it, and shipping it down to international markets such as Florida, North Carolina, Texas, off of a deepwater port located right here. So great advantage to have all this infrastructure here. Like I said, it is fully permitted, which is a pretty rare find. This is a view of Shoreline's operations. So as part of the deal we did with Signal Gold, they came in as a partner with us. Mostly what we're going to do with these guys is just we're going to carve off part of the surface lease here for them to expand, which will give them access to more markets and more opportunities. So they're a big economic driver in the area right now. They employ well over 100 people. This is an example of the kind of ships that they can bring in. So Panamax ships can roll up here, take out 50 to 60,000 tons of aggregate at a time. And what we really like about this site, and where we think is a big advantage for Maritime, with the port access, we're able to look at shipping material in for perhaps some processing up here at the mill, and even shipping concentrates out if in the future. So I think this is a great long-term asset to look at all kinds of minerals coming in and minerals going out, shipping, exporting, and importing different things. It's a unique spot where you have a fully permitted site with a lot of capacity and a lot of real estate. We also have abundant power in the area here, and a great jurisdiction with provinces supports everything that we're trying to do. So great situation here. Our other mill to the east is called Nugget Pond. So we have a gold circuit here. It's a CIP circuit. And this last operated back in 2013. So it's in very good condition. Rambler took great care of it. And what we've done now, this was the basis for our original 2022 feasibility study. We're now going to be shifting gears with the feasibility study update and going to the Pine Cove mill. This is still a valuable asset, and we're going to look at how to the best way to incorporate that into our next feasibility study update. In the local community, this is a great shot here of the town of Kings Point. This little community is probably about 600, 700 people, very close to the mine site, maybe about 10 minutes away. So it's a beautiful spot. This is in a neat area where a lot of people in this town actually work in mining. The same with a lot of the coastal communities in the Baie Verte Peninsula. A lot of people are very familiar with mining. They work in Fort McMurray or up at different mines around Canada. So given the chance, we believe there's a big desire for people to return home and be home every night. So we think there's a great local workforce for us here. We've been active in the community for a number of years, supporting a lot of the education and youth programs. We think that's an important thing to invest in the youth early so that we have that next generation of workers coming up. We went through our own environmental assessment on the Hammerdown project, which was kind of unique. It was provincial only. We didn't have any federal triggers or federal involvement in the environmental assessment. So as such, we were able to get through the environmental assessment process in roughly 8 months, which is very fast. So that's a good example of how Newfoundland operates. It's certainly a great place to work. Okay, another quick view of Hammerdown. So this is our main project, and this was, again, a former mine operated by Richmond. They started off with a small open pit here, and you can see in this image, we've gone in and cleared the entire footprint of the proposed open pit plant site and waste dump on an early works program. We did this a couple of years ago. After Richmond mined out a small bulk sample here, which graded close to 20 grams per ton, they went underground, and this was operated as a small cut and fill kind of shrinkage mining operation with an average grade of just over 15 grams per ton. So this is a mine that made money back when gold was $300 an ounce, $300, $400, with an 8 gram cutoff grade, or like 8.5 actually. So we're looking at what's left behind. Okay, and they have quite a resource that they left behind. And from these gold prices that we're looking at, with the mill being present, and we don't have to spend a lot of money on that, then the project starts to make sense. And what we came up with was a concept involving an open pit, selective mining of high-grade veins, ore sorting on site, X-rays, dry process. A lot of test work has shown behaves fantastic through the sorting plant. Gold is associated with pyrites, so it separates with X-rays and compressed air. Pretty simple process. The ore then would be trucked up to the mill, about an hour away. Everything on the site here is non-acid generating, so it's a very inert project. From an environmental point of view, there's no water impacts, no fish, no species at risk, nothing that would push us into a federal process. Quick summary on our feasibility study, and I guess you're getting probably the point by now that we're focused on developing this project and getting the cash flow as soon as we can. We think that's the best way forward for our company. We're close to it. We have some exploration potential that'll come in, we believe, as we drill. But right now, it's to get to cash flow, and we have that great chance to do this. The Hammerdown project is a high grade 4.5 gram open pit diluted. So we have reserves. They're 4.5 grams, about 272,000 ounces in the open pit here. There is some underground potential. It's a little bit limited, but we need to do some more drilling to see what's beneath here. The sorted grade after we run it through the plant jumps up to about almost 7 grams per ton. So that's what we ship up to the mill. Annual production of around 50,000 ounces, which is a good start. The feasibility study had an all-in sustaining cost of just over $900 an ounce US and a total capital of 75 million Canadian. We often get asked about mining narrow veins in an open pit. It's not something you see all the time. It comes with some pretty high strip ratios. The difference here is that the grades in the veins are very high. And we don't have to cover a lot of capital cost to, say, build a brand new mill. Well, we actually own 2. In fact, we just bought one that was running back in March of this year. So we save a lot of capital by doing that. And it makes these types of mines where you have high strip but high grade narrow vein open pit mines possible. There are some other examples in the world where these types of pits are operated. Cerro Vanguardia down in Argentina, I believe, and over in Africa as well. So I just wanted to quickly go over here just a few things that we came up with on how to mine these narrow veins effectively, keeping the grade without diluting it too much. So we have over 100 different veins. They're vertical. They're very continuous along depth and along strike, which is a big advantage for mining. We have a very good underground model of the former workings, so we know where they are. The ground conditions were very good. It's a dry mine, so we have very good rock to work with. So we came up with a method where we'll be mining and selective mining where we can take the veins out individually, small benches, mining on day shift only, as you can see from this image below. Very stark contrast between ore and waste. So we would definitely have to have people in the field watching this. Very careful blasting, careful mining generally, all the way down just to, this isn't a mine that makes money because we mine quickly or move lots of tons per day. It's a very selective mine. We have a local assay lab in Springdale, which is the only assay lab in Newfoundland located a few minutes away from the project. So we can expect some quick turnarounds on these assays. We even have another 50,000 meters of diamond drilling for grade control planned in our fee study on 15 by 10 meter spacing. So there's a lot of information and a lot of things that we've done to control what we think is probably the biggest challenge with this project is mining these narrow veins. And at the end of the day, after all that is done, we have an ore sorting plant with a lot of extra capacity to kick out some of that dilution before we put it on the truck and before we process it. So a lot of thoughts gone into this, and happy to talk to anybody about this later on. So next steps for Maritime. Now that we've completed the Pointe Rousse acquisition, like I said, we're going to be updating the feasibility study with that as the basis for the processing plant, completing our project permitting, and exploring some of these near mine targets. There are several, which we will talk about in a second. Hopefully they can add to the mine life, and that's the objective. Throughout 2024, I think in Q1, we'll have the fee study updated. We'll then look at project financing to procure the equipment that we need. When we bought this Pine Cove mill, that list went down substantially compared to the Nugget Pond plant. So that really helped. And then we'll look at construction for Hammerdown probably later in 2024, leading to an early 2025 first production. Switching over just to a few slides on exploration. This is a view at Hammerdown, actually, and it's a magnetic survey. You can see kind of the general folding that's going on here. And this is at least a 10 to 15 kilometer trend that we have. And we've already got one additional deposit down here called Orion. That'll be coming up in the feasibility study. We see a lot of other targets along here that just haven't been drilled. We're short on drilling. In fact, the last few years that we've been running Maritime, we focused a lot on firming up the mine plan for Hammerdown, at the expense of greenfield exploration. But that does not mean that potential is not there. It is definitely there. We see high-grade narrow veins that look like Hammerdown. Also a VMS trend that sits kind of in the footwall, just to the south of all these gold zones as well. And we'll talk about that in a second here. Here's a good view actually of closer on Hammerdown. You can see where our main deposit is with the reserves. Just to the northeast, there's these veins actually continue. And in green is something that's shown up. It's been known about for a while, but it really wasn't focused for us. But I think it is now that we have a flotation plant at Pine Cove, we can consider looking at some of these VMS zones that show up. So this would be lead, copper, zinc, silver, and gold. Some nice widths and some decent grades. So stay tuned for this, as we're going to try to put this into our pipeline of exploration right here, and hopefully add another open pit on the east side of Hammerdown. About 2 kilometers away to the south, we get Orion, and that's a neat zone that is open at depth. We get similar grades to Hammerdown, but it's a little bit different, more of a disseminated mineralization through here. Thicker widths, 4 to 5 grams over 13 meters. We do have some higher grade shoots in here too. Here's one of 26 grams over 4 meters. And again, open at depth. We need to do some more drilling on this zone here, but it looks good so far. One more view on Orion, actually. So this is a cross section, and you can see how we've got a pretty continuous zone, a few other little ones that are on the side here on the hanging wall. And this, like I said, is open at depth. So great target for us. We just need to do some more drilling on this one. This one is a little bit further north. So you can imagine we had Hammerdown to the south, and we had Pine Cove, which is the mill about an hour away. This project is about halfway through there. Brand new greenfields target. We had some very nice grades trenched and sampled in bedrock and also in float. A few drill holes, as you can see here, 6 grams over 5.8 meters. Anyway, this is about 1 kilometer long, and I think a great target. We just have not had a lot of time or budget to go in and drill this, but it is a very good development or an exploration target that could lead to a new resource with a bit of drilling here. Okay, one more exploration slide. This is up at the Pointe Rousse project. So I really like this area because there's a lot of targets, a lot of smoke. Just here on the left side, this is the Pine Cove mill that we picked up. The Stoggertite deposit is just about 4 kilometers to the east. Resource, I believe, around 70,000 ounces of around 2 or 3 grams sitting here. And what I'm pointing out on this map is an area called Deer Cove. I think this was discovered by Noranda many years ago. As you can see, they had some very interesting intersections up here. We're going to focus definitely in this area for our exploration program. It's close to the mill. There's road access all through here. If we're able to find anything up in this area, then it's a pretty straightforward process to bring it down here and into the mill. So we really like this area here. And last but not least, this is our what we call the strategic asset in the Abitibi. We are looking for somebody to take it off our hands. We're looking for a partner. We're a small company. We need to focus in Newfoundland and on the Hammerdown project and the execution of that one. So this one is definitely something we'd like to find a home for. We updated the resource last year, 227,000 ounces, around 4 grams. That goes from surface down to about 350 meters. Interesting jurisdiction. We're right in the right spot, and beautiful area with a lot of projects. We're about 8 kilometers east of Agnico's Wasamac 2 million ounce reserve project. There is some underground development in place. It's next door to a very deep mine that went down to 1,200 meters, and it's even got some nickel potential on the property too. While we were looking at it, we've realized that it even had a valid permit for 1,000 tons a day of direct shipping to one of the many mills in the area that are looking for feed. So a pretty attractive project. And if anybody's interested, please reach out to me. So last but not least, we'll wrap up this presentation. Just a quick overview of the company. Maritime has about 545 million shares outstanding. That's a lot. So we're going to be looking at something, how to take care of that in the future. However, at the moment, we're sitting about 20 million market cap, $4 million in working capital. We did take on $5 million US debt with this recent financing that we did. Newfoundland Gold was the lead investor on that one. We have a target price of 16 cents by Brandon Gaspar with SCP Resource Finance. Management team listed here, good mix of people that are from different companies around Canada. And I think we have a great team here, great board of directors and great shareholders. So it's all coming together into a nice package of a nice little startup mine at Hammerdown, room to grow, an asset there at the Baie Verte area we call Pine Cove that we will really love to expand and look at different ways to, import or export different minerals and be the kind of the processing hub for the region. Okay, Deb, that's it for me. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much for the overview, Garett. I have a couple questions for you. I know we're up against almost half an hour, but I don't have anyone after this. So if you're happy to stay on for 10 minutes, I'd love to ask you some questions.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, great. So Newfoundland's interesting to me. I mean, as you referenced, there was a lot of activity there in 2020, 2021, and it slowed down a lot. Maybe you could talk about rig availability and kind of what you've seen over the last 3-4 years on the island.
Yeah, that's you're right. About a couple of years ago, it was pretty haywire there. It was I remember driving by the assay lab and the entire parking lot was full of sample bags and the employees were parking on the road. That's changed, I think, just because of the capital market situation the way it is now. I know the lab, certainly in our town, has expanded, so turnaround times on assays are much better than they were. Drills are available. In fact, the little town where we operate has, I think, 4 or 5 diamond drill companies based in that town. So we're very lucky to have that infrastructure be able to support us. But in Newfoundland, though, it's a busy place still. Perhaps exploration has slowed down a little bit, but there are some projects moving ahead. Marathons in full construction mode. People are still exploring Matador to the southwest. We have Newfound Gold, continuing to explore where they are. Lots of activity where we are as well. We're planning to start exploring here this fall on some of those targets that I mentioned. So although it may have shifted a little bit from the craziness of the exploration, a couple of years ago, it's still quite busy.
And it sounds like the government there has been very pro-mining. I think you've referenced in the past that the government said that they want to issue 5 new mine permits by 2030. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it has. I believe it is still the case. It's the same government. So that was a plan that came out, I think, in 2018, where they first came out with that target. Newfoundland and Labrador place a lot of value on mining. It's a big economic driver for the province. The province has a long history with mining. They understand it. They've been incredibly supportive of us and other projects in the region. So I can't say enough good things about it. There's more coming. I think hopefully we're one of the 5 mines that they want to see put in production here. But anyway, it's going really well. So I've been happy with everything there.
Have they indicated what types of mines they want to permit, whether it's critical metals, precious metals, or more sustainable mining techniques? You mentioned that you don't have water or fish or species risk. Do those things factor in?
Yeah, sure they do. They do have a critical metals kind of strategy. I believe there's some funding for people to go and look for things like copper, and there's a lot of copper in the area where we operate in the Baie Verte area. They've supported us through another program actually that funds technologies that can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So ore sorting comes to mind, right? When you think about that, if you can reduce the amount of waste rock that you have to haul and process, you therefore are saving a huge amount of diesel fuel, which therefore saves a great amount of greenhouse gases. So there's a program called the Climate Change Challenge Fund that we applied to. And the province has indicated a grant of $1 million towards our sorting plant. So there's an example of the government supporting companies, both from an innovative way and also with the critical metals. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then what permits are still required in the permitting process for Hammerdown, and where are you at with those?
Yeah. So we've got Hammerdown, the project has been through environmental assessment already, which is great. And that was fairly straightforward. we are going to a fully permitted mill, so that's another good thing. The remaining parts for Hammerdown closure plan and the development plan, and those are submitted already to the province. So we're just waiting to get through that. I think perhaps by the end of the year, early next year, we'll be through that. And then there's a few construction type permits that need to be issued, but those are more procedural. So we're very close now. Yeah, the big one was the environmental assessment. That's the one where you're consulting the communities and everybody, and well, we've been through that. So yeah, we're in good shape. Definitely in good shape for permitting.
Yeah. And has there ever been open pit mining at site, or has it all been underground?
There was that small bulk sample that they took years ago, and that was really just to test out most likely the metallurgy in the process plant. And then Hammerdown was an underground mine, 99% of it. So yeah, small amount of open pit mining in the area, but not much, right? It was very, very, very limited in the Baie Verte area. Yeah.
And as you're working towards your next technical and economic studies, do you anticipate to see a lot of cost creep from your 2022 study?
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't think so. I think I can tell you that certainly fuel prices have gone up a little bit from the last time we looked at it. That's actually one of the reasons, not fuel, but in the inflation part of it is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this deal for the Pine Cove mill. This mill was running, a few months ago. It's not like it was mothballed and we have to bulldoze it and build a new one. No, this is a fully operational plant. So just that alone, acquiring that 1,300 ton a day mill with a tailings facility that's very large, all the power lines, the roads, that's a lot of infrastructure and equipment and things that we don't have to worry about from an inflation construction point of view. So that really de-risked the project for us. Other things that we would, certainly be open to inflationary pressures on would be like mine equipment, crushing, and that kind of things. Contractor services, labor. We're still at the mercy of some of those, but I think we've taken good steps to control it as best we can.
Okay. And then talking about the Orion deposit, was that included in the 2022 feasibility, or will that be a new inclusion into your next study?
Yeah, that was not included in last year's study. We felt we needed to do a little more drilling on that one and some more work before it was brought into the fees level stage. So it will be in the next study, as well as the Stoggertite deposit, another deposit we picked up for this Pointe Rousse acquisition. So we're going to try and put them all together to create a longer life project. And, when we did the Hammerdown one a couple of years ago, it was a very good little project, good capital cost, high grade, but a little short, right? Around 4 or 5 years of mine life. And that you want to see a little bit of a longer mine life when you jump into project financing. So we think we have that opportunity now with the other deposits, plus some exploration that I think can add to even that. So, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And last question for me, maybe you could walk us through your work programs that you have planned for the next 12 months and potential catalysts.
Mm-hmm. So over the next 12 months, from a development point of view, it's the feasibility study update. Of course, that's going to be Q1 of next year. Project financing will follow behind that. I would say hopefully by the middle of next year, as well as the project permitting, which should follow the feasibility study update. And then we're looking into construction. Exploration we want to continue to do throughout this year, next year. We have a lot of targets that we are pretty excited about. So that's going to be a parallel thing that happens. And maybe selling this project in the Abitibi. So there's quite a few things going on. And of course, we're working with Newfoundland Gold on this potential toll milling idea as well. So there's a lot of value kind of circling around the company, and we're just hoping we can make it all work and get a good return for shareholders.
Right. And I lied to you because I have one other question. I see an audience question.
Okay.
We'll go with audience question first. So, Sprott says that Maritime's trading at a PNAV of 0.1 times, potential free cash flow of 41 million, and the replacement cost is 100 million. Are you concerned that someone will take a run at the company at these levels?
All those things are correct on the valuations and the replacement value is, yeah, you're right. It's a pretty expensive thing to replace a new mill and all the things that we acquired. I don't think so. We're not too worried. We have a very strong shareholder base that controls a large amount of the company. So I think that would be difficult for somebody to do that without the cooperation of our major shareholders.
Okay. And I mean, trading at 0.1 times is crazy, but not unheard of for advanced developers. It's been a horrible market for that segment for sure. So definitely a lot of value out there for investors, I think, currently. The question that I had for you was about your share rollback. You alluded to potentially doing something to clean up the cap structure. How do you envision that happening? Would you do it in conjunction with your project financing or with a larger catalyst?
It's more about timing, I suppose. I think if there's a turn in the market where we have some, we'll call it optimism, and some maybe return to a more normal market where it could make sense to do so. Yeah. So we're trying to find the right time to do it. It's something that will eventually happen. We're aware of that, and we think with perhaps a rollback, it may be attractive to other investors who are perhaps not looking at us just because of the high share count. So yeah. So I'll just leave it at that. I think it's something that will eventually happen when the time's right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to give us an overview of the story. Sounds like you've made a lot of progress and have a number of catalysts coming. So yeah, good to see, and looking forward to some of those catalysts this year. And thank you so much for participating and supporting our fundraiser. I believe you're the last victim. We've done 3 different sessions, and I can't remember how many companies, but I think we managed to raise $24,000 throughout the past month for Fire Relief. So really appreciate you participating, and everyone else that participated as well. We'll send out a thank you next week, and also to all the audience members that made this happen.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having us. It's a great cause, and I'm glad you're leading that one, and happy to participate.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, thanks, Deb.
And a big shout out to Karen Mate. Thanks, Karen, for setting some of this up.
Yeah.